I've liked being able to move fast. And I think now with AI, you can get unbelievable amounts of things done. I'm building a startup on the side. I've written all the code with the agent. I've done all of the logistical work, the HR work, the finance work. I've done all of that myself. And previously I would have raised money and hired a team and done all that. And it's literally just me coding about 2-3 hours a day at night. So it's like, it's so bonkers. I love it.
Welcome to episode 49 of Tool Use, the weekly conversation about AI tools and strategies. I'm Mike Bird, and today we're talking about how to use AI to improve your productivity, using and building tools, implementing agents, and much more. We're joined by Ryan Carson, a 3-time Exited Founder and Entrepreneur of the Year award winner. Ryan, welcome to Tool Use.
Good to be here. I'm excited to share some stuff and hopefully delight your listeners. So let's do it.
Absolutely. Would you mind giving us a little bit of your background as we get into it?
Yeah, sure. So started off with a computer science degree and then was a web developer for a little bit and then sort of caught the entrepreneurial bug and started my first company. It was actually a tool to send large files because it was hard to do back in the day. And then that was acquired. And then I really fell in love with education and teaching people how to code. So then the last 2 businesses I built and sold were all focused on teaching people how to code and empowering people with code. And now I'm a full stack dev again. It's kind of funny how it's come full circle with AI. So it's an exciting time to be alive.
And actually, I wouldn't mind getting your opinion. Do you think people should learn to code in this day and age?
You know, it's funny you mention that because I was actually going to tweet something about this yesterday. I'm seeing the same lines get drawn that were drawn before, whereas people saw themselves either as a person that could learn how to code or not. And we're seeing similar lines around people saying, oh, I'm going to try Cursor or try Windsurf or not, which is unfortunate, right? Because I think now anybody can code for real. Like, back when I was running Treehouse and we taught 1 million people how to code, I believed anyone who really wanted to could learn how to code, but now literally anybody can code. So I think absolutely learning how to code is still valuable because we're still very, very far from the models literally creating all the software that you need without any input or any understanding of how it all works. So I think having that basic understanding of how code works, and it doesn't have to be deep. You don't need a computer science degree for sure. But I think learning how to code is still extremely valuable, and it's never been easier to learn, right? You literally download Cursor, open the agent, and say, I don't know anything, teach me how to make a game in Python, and you can do it.
And on top of that, if you have Cursor in one window, ChatGPT in the other, you can just ask it, have a little thought partner, go over, start making code. If you're questioning different concepts or whatnot, it's like you said, never been easier.
Never been easier. I mean, you have this always on, almost omniscient being that wants you to win, like for $20 a month. Like it's bonkers. And I think we're very lucky to be alive right now.
Yeah. And I've actually talked to some people and they use Cursor as a learning tool, or they're clone down a repo, ask how do they implement feature X, and I'll actually walk through it. So it's like a 2-directional thing where you can get information out of it and then you can dump information into turn something into a real thing.
Yep. Yeah. It's amazing.
So do you mind giving us a little bit of how you use Cursor? Because you're getting prolific on Twitter with all your little tutorials, and we'd love to get a little insight.
Yeah. So, this journey started back when I first heard that Cursor was shipping. And the idea was, for, if anyone's used VS Code as their kind of standard IDE, which most web developers probably will, it's basically a fork of VS Code. So I thought, I want to try this. I want the AI built into the UI. Because before that, what I was doing is, having ChatGPT open a window, asking it something, copying and pasting the code, into the IDE. It was very, very clunky and slow. And so as soon as I heard about Cursor, I thought, let's try it. And gosh, this was, over a year ago, which is like lifetimes in AI. And what I did is download and install, and I thought, gosh, this is just a dream, because it's obviously creating diffs for me right in the IDE, right? So I'm not sort of copying, pasting, and trying to figure out what to change. I just say, hey, update this, and it does. So I write all my code through Cursor now. I would say the agents probably write, 95% of my code. And my main job is, reviewer, and editor and guide. So it's a fascinating workflow.
And I find sometimes people are almost splitting hairs saying Cursor versus Windsurf versus Claude Code. Have you experimented all of them and settled on Cursor, or do you just find it worked in your workflow and just stuck with it?
Yeah, so I use them all. Initially, I was testing Windsurf and Cursor pretty heavily against each other, and I just found that the agent worked better for me in Cursor. There's a lot going on behind the scenes around the context window management, around the system prompt, around the tooling. There's a lot of stuff that the Cursor team is doing versus the Windsurf team, and I just found that the mix of them seemed better in Cursor. So kind of double down on Cursor. And then Claude Code came out. And for those listening that haven't heard of it, it's basically a command line interface tool that is an agent, right? So you npm install it, and then you talk to it just like you would any AI, and you can say things like, "Oh, I want you to update, XYZ to do ABC," and it kind of cranks through it. Now, it's interesting because I'm a visual person, so I prefer the IDE, right? I prefer to see the file tree visually, see the diffs easier. There's a lot of that I like, which is why I tend to use Cursor's agent. But I do find, in certain circumstances, Cloud Code is great. It primarily uses, Linux commands to navigate, the file tree and to search for files and do things. So it's very efficient and it's very targeted at what it does. So I'm exploring both. Most of the time, though, I'm using Cursor's agent. And now that they have background agents, I use those a lot, which is where you spin up, an agent and you say, go find this bug and fix it. And then it just works in the background. And then you come back and it's done. And then you submit a pull request and review it. And by the time your listeners hear this will be kind of older news. But today, Cursor just shipped background agents on mobile. So now you can code from bed. So it's such a wild time to be alive.
Yeah, I was actually just out in my backyard the other day, had a little idea, sent Claude on a deep research, OpenAI on a deep research, and then I just got to go about my day and then get little notifications that, hey, this all came in, and all of a sudden you're just that much more productive during your leisure time. It's awesome.
I know. I've hired and managed teams of up to about 110 people. And I had a CTO and a VP of Eng and engineering managers and product managers and engineers and all of that. And I'm just blown away by the fact that essentially now I can manage a team of AI developers in a similar way, right? You can get unbelievable amounts of things done just with me. So I'm building a startup on the side. I've written all the code, with the agent. I've done all of the logistical work, the HR work, the finance work. I've done all of that myself. And previously I would have raised money and hired a team and done all that. And it's literally just me, coding about 2-3 hours a day at night. So it's like, it's so bonkers. I love it.
Yeah. One thing I would like to get your thoughts on, you mentioned managing multiple agents, being more visual. I feel that we're still evolving into what the actual interface, the user interface is going to be for dealing with these agents. Do you have any thoughts on are background agents going to be dominant and you kind of just like issue a command, run and forget it? Or do you think there'll be some type of dashboard we see? Or how do you see this interface evolving?
I think it's going to end up feeling a lot like a Kanban sort of project management PM type tool. I think where this is going is that the pure engineering work is going to be done by AIs mostly, right? And then what you're going to be doing a lot of is creating, product requirement docs or PRDs. You're going to be then asking your lead engineer, which is going to be an AI, to turn that into a task list. And then you're going to say, okay, go and execute that task list. Come back with any questions, I'll help. And then I'm going to review it at the end. So it actually will feel very similar to the way you would manage humans, right? But it's AIs instead. There's a lot of feedback you have to give, right? And this is just like employees. You never just say to an employee, go do that, and it happens, and you never check back in, and you don't chat to them, you don't get feedback. Like there's a lot of feedback There's a lot of checking in. There's a lot of guidance. There's a lot of giving context, right? This is all the same with AI devs. So I think the UI is going to end up looking a bit like an Asana, Kanban board, where you're managing, epics and stories and things like that. But the AIs are working on a lot of it. And we'll touch on this later, but I've come up with a very simple 3-part workflow to manage AI devs that really has transformed my output and my workflow. And it's been really exciting to use that.
And one thing you just mentioned was managing the context. And we're starting to explore different ways of automating that. Context engineering is going to be one of the hardest things. But as you use Cursor, whether it's with plugins or with MCP servers, how do you try to start bringing the proper context into your workflow to make it a little bit more automated?
Right now I don't. I think it's very hand cranked at the moment. So this is why I do think people need to learn the basics of code. They do need to learn, the basic files that they need to include in the context. So whenever I start a task, here's how I do it. So the first thing I'll do is I'll use a tool like Flow, which is just records my voice, so I don't have to type. I'll go into Cursor, into the agent. I'll turn on Flow, and I'll just start talking about the feature that I want to build. Right. So I'll say, all right, I want a dashboard that does X, Y, Z and accomplishes this and makes it easier for users to do that. And then I'll hit done with recording, and I'll get all the text. And then I'll tag a markdown file, which has instructions for creating a PRD or a product requirement doc. So then I'll say, I'll tag it. And really, this is what people need to learn how to do. It's like, okay, you're going to have these markdown files with pre-written prompts in them, and you're going to reuse those prompts all the time to do things. And so my create-prd.md is really just a complex prompt that says, take the user's, text and turn it into a product requirement doc. And the first thing you should do is ask the user, 5 clarifying questions. So then the AI comes right back, and this is all in Cursor, right? So the agent then, just to say this again for folks that are listening to make it clear, right? So you type in kind of almost verbal diarrhea around like, what is this feature supposed to be? You really don't have to specify it crystal clear. And then you tag this generate PRD markdown file, and then you hit go. And then the AI will then read all that. It will read the PRD prompt, and then it will come back and say, well, what did you mean by this? And can you be more clear about that, right? So it kind of asks you good questions you'd expect a product manager to ask you. And then you answer those. And then what you do is then you tag another prompt, which I call generate tasks.md, right? Again, it's a prompt, right? So the prompt says, take this PRD and turn it into a list of tasks that a junior developer would need to finish in order to implement the PRD, right? But the first thing I want you to do, AI, is give me the 5 top level tasks that probably need to be done and ask me if they look correct. And then the AI says, okay, Ryan, these look like the 5 tasks that, top level we need to do. Does that look roughly correct? And then I'll, give it a little feedback and probably say, no, I think probably after the second one, we should probably do this. Give it a little feedback, and then I'll say, go. And then in that prompt, it will say, okay, great. Now I need to flesh out all those tasks into, typically it's kind of like a 5-part task plan with probably, 5 to 10 subtasks under each one. And each one of those has a little markdown checkbox. And then, and only then do I say, okay, let's start on task 1.1. And I have a third markdown file, which tells it how to execute the task. And it's very simple. Do one task at a time, and always stop and ask me for permission before you go to the next task. That's literally it. That 3-part system, has allowed me to ship, over 100,000 lines, of highly complex code, for the startup I'm building, in a very detailed niche vertical. all with just me. Um, and is it perfect code? No, but it's secure. I've done a lot of work on that. It's concise. It's dry. Um, it's good code, right? So, and I've open sourced those markdown files. We can pop a link in the show notes, but I guess people are loving it because it's got like 3,000 stars on GitHub already, and I guess people are liking it.
Amazing. Love the idea of having the human in the loop throughout the whole process. It's extremely important that people still realize the limitations of these systems, and the more tasks you chain together, the higher likelihood of failure. So keep coming back, get a little reiteration. When you go through this process, do you try to start a new cursor chat for each task to prevent the risk of context compression or pruning, or can you do in a single task because you have these markdown files offloading some of the memory?
So for each PRD, I'll have one chat. And this is the importance of having the PRD and the task list, right? Because whenever, and again, people need just to get in here and try this stuff, and you start to get a sense for the AI and its capabilities. And just like a human, when you're say you're sitting down with your developer and you were chatting through, some of the features that, they were building, and it was clear like, oh, their memory of the PRD is a little fuzzy now. Like they're saying things that like don't quite match reality. Obviously this happens with AI, context rot. And you can see when that starts happening. And then what I do is usually I'll use the cursor command to clear context, which completely clears the context. And then I'll retag the PRD and the task list and say, let's keep going, on task, 1.3. And so it's just that kind of manual human in the loop process that allows me to execute pretty large PRDs, pretty much perfectly. Now, I just think people need to understand it's not like 0 or 1 here, right? I hear a lot of people saying, wow, vibe code is just, slop, and, there's no point. And then I hear people that are just all in and believe everything is one shot. It's between, right? It's like now you have a very capable AI engineer. They're almost a genius, but they have like this practical sense of a goldfish, right? Where you're like, wow, you understand everything and you remember everything, but you don't seem to understand. It's pretty important, like to do this very basic thing we talked about. And that's where the task list comes in, right? You iterate through that and you have a human in the loop.
I love hearing the fact that your system is getting so much attention. One question I have is around prompt management. So a lot of people will have these MD files that they'll pull into every project. Do you do anything in terms of version control or evals to try to iterate upon these, or is it good enough off the first go that you've kind of locked it in and you don't really need to worry about optimizing it further?
I think it's a good idea to periodically evaluate these and actually do evals on them. But the truth is most of us are busy, and if it seems to be working, you just keep using it, right? So what I'll do occasionally is I'll think, oh gosh, like I really haven't updated my agents.md file, and the project has changed since then. This prompt is a little frustrating. Like it keeps asking me this annoying thing. I really should update it. And then I'll go in and clean things up, right? So and again, this is just like working with real engineers when you realize, gosh, we need to do some cleanup. We need to do some maintenance. It's the same thing. But I find in general, the 3 markdown files that I have for this, PRD to task management to task execution, they've not changed a whole lot. I've had some people submit some really great PRs to the repo, and we've improved it a little bit. But by and large, it's pretty static, and it seems to be working.
It's power of open source. You get all the brains together working on it.
No,
I absolutely love it.
It's really fun. I will say the model matters a lot. So I'm all in on max mode on Cursor. So what that is basically more thinking, right? So you do have to pay more for it. And I find, Sonnet 4 in max mode pretty much is unstoppable. If I need larger context, then I'll switch to Gemini 2.5 Pro because it has a 1 million token context window, and I'll use that in max mode as well. But I'm pretty much max all the time. And to me, it's worth the spend because otherwise you would be hiring an engineer, raising money and doing all this stuff, or paying 200 to $1,000 a month, to manage a team of engineers. To me, is a huge value unlock.
Yeah, and it depends on the project too. If it's just something you're hacking together, don't worry about it. But if you're trying to make a company,
Yeah.
spend a few extra bucks.
Yes, exactly.
So, love the insight into Cursor. I'm curious for the other aspects of your business or workflow in general. Do you have any other AI tools that help either generate the PRDs, help with testing, anything on the tangential aspect?
Yeah. So occasionally I use a tool called Repo Prompt. So Repo Prompt is kind of a power context tool. So it's a free. There's a free version for Mac and there's a paid version. I don't think there's a PC version yet, but basically allows you to select the exact context you want, and then it formats it in the perfect kind of XML Markdown format. So if you want really kind of high-powered context management, then Repo Prompt is really great. There's also a chat tool in it, so you could use it instead of Cursor if you wanted to. But I tend to use it for sort of very specific context management. And by that, what I mean is, so say I know I have a specific set of files that I want to put into the context of a model. I'll open Repo Prompt and I'll select those files in the file tree. And then I'll click copy, and then I'll go to another model. Say for instance, I go over to chat.com and pull up O3 Pro, which I could use in Cursor, but and then I paste it in there and then ask it to do something. So there's a little bit of that, a little bit of Repo Prompt. I love O3 Pro, right? So from the OpenAI world, O3 and O3 Pro are just so powerful. So for a lot of personal stuff, I use OpenAI. My kind of default, AI that I chat to every day is, one of the OpenAI models through ChatGPT, because I find that the memory management is very good, and it, ChatGPT is really becoming like pretty knowledgeable about my life and what matters to me, and I'm really enjoying that. So those are a couple tools I use. And then, like I said, the other one is Flow, which is basically a tool to capture your speech and turn it into text quite easily wherever you are.
Nice. Yeah. I'm a user of Super Whisper, exact same premise. The tool almost does make a difference these days with all the open source coming out.
Yep.
But the ability is just, like you said, verbal diarrhea to your computer, be a little weird with what you're thinking, and it just makes connections and you refine it after and it's fine.
I know. It's amazing. I do a lot of almost like sort of founder therapy and, business therapy with OpenAI, where I talk a lot about, gosh, I'm not sure what to do about this, or I don't feel like I know enough about that, or maybe I'm not good enough to do this, or I need some guidance on that. Like there's a lot of what I used to have like a CEO coach for. I tend to do all that with OpenAI now.
I was formerly quite a skeptic of using AI for therapy, and I'm still not advocating for not seeing a therapist if that's what you need. But just the ability to have a infinitely patient companion that's going to talk you through different issues has been super helpful. I've had some friends actually upload blood work or other things to get a second opinion, some of which actually revealed stuff that the doctor kind of missed or might have overlooked. Do you have any other in your personal life or even your professional life, other uses for ChatGPT, whether it's a project or just different prompts to help unlock these different aspects of life that weren't possible before?
Yeah, we are using it for a lot of medical stuff. So now that O3 is out in O3 Pro, my wife and I have done deep research using O3 Pro on a couple kind of gnarly medical issues, and it was very insightful. Obviously, like you and everybody else, we're not inherently trusting what it says. We're not, fact checking, but overall, it's really unlocked a lot of compute that your doctor just doesn't have time or resources to give you. So using a lot for that. My kids use it a lot. It's really funny because we share an account. And so I can see what they're chatting to ChatGPT about. And it's hilarious to do that. And I've sort of asked ChatGPT, I'm like, do you understand the difference between me and my kids? And, when someone's talking to you about F-16s and, and the right weapon load for F-16s. That's not me. That's my kid who flies. Who's doing a flight simulator, and it's like, yeah, I know about that. I'm like, are you sure?
Never how those memories bleed into the different answers it gives
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, this is my major gripe with the way LLMs work right now is they're just too conceding. They're still too fast to agree and to support. I think, and I assume, the large labs are going to figure this out, but we need a way for the LMs to really push back, right? When they really disagree. Because, you've probably done this in Cursor, especially with Sonnet 4. It's bad at this is, you'll, do a bunch of tasks and then commit your code. And it gives you this just happy, shining, message about all the changes in your commit and just how amazing they are. And, and then you realize like one of them is literally wrong. And it's like, gosh, we just need to get to a spot where it's more reflective and accurate about what's actually happening, and not presuming everything is great all the time.
Yeah, there've been a few instances when I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" It's like, "Actually, I'm wrong." I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" And just kind of flip flop. So yeah, a little more of a backbone would be wonderful.
Yeah. I've heard, and I actually need to try more of this. The Anthropic folks were saying a really good method is to ask the AI to sort of measure its response. That's not the exact words they said, but maybe it's reflect upon your response, and then you actually get some of the self-correcting behavior pretty quickly. So I probably should do more of that.
Yeah, no, that's something fun to explore. I'd love to pivot slightly into AI agents because you talked about Cursor and the background agents operating, but for other aspects of general workflow or interacting with the digital world now, we have things like browser automations where you have entire browsers or plugins that can just control us or automating processes. Do you use any agents or have you seen any limitations stopping you from adopting them in your workflow?
Yeah. So I've written workflows for agents primarily using TypeScript. And then I recently tried N8N um, to see, well, do I want a visual version of this workflow? So if anyone's listening hasn't tried this, I think you should go to n8n.io, I believe. And you can basically build, a workflow where you input this and then that gets sent to this agent and then the agent does this and then sends it to this agent and then, eventually something comes out. Um, you know, I don't use many of these in real life yet. What I'm finding is most of the agentic behavior I need is very specific. So, for instance, on the startup I'm building, I wanted to do basically an SEO audit, right? So what I did is created a group of agents that collaborate, right? And the idea is, okay, I want an agent who kind of reads all the text and takes notes about, potential SEO improvements. And then I want another agent to then go and do cross-linking between, all the pages. And then I want a final agent to review the output for quality and accuracy. And you kind of orchestrate these agents using, at the moment, I just use Vercel's AI SDK, all in TypeScript. And I actually find that easier than using a visual tool like N8N because it's just faster with, the agent in Cursor cranking out the code for me. So I don't use many, true agents yet. I just find that very specific use cases, absolutely. But most of them, I think, that fall into the ChatGPT, which slight agentic behavior, and then using Cursor's agent, to write code. I think as this will get better and better and better. Andre Karpathy tweeted a couple days ago. He said, I think what we're going to see is this kind of cognitive home base where there'll be a small LLM that lives on your phone. And it's just smart enough to be able to delegate out to larger, more intelligent models. And it becomes essentially your AI companion. And then once that really happens and it actually knows you and understands how to tool call and route to various agents, I think at that point you'll start to see true agentic behavior. But we're just not quite there yet in my mind.
I agree with the building your own pipelines rather than N8N. Maybe it's the developer background. I think some people like the safety net of having the visual laid out. But just in regards to agents, I use tools like Exa or Firecrawl to do some web scraping, but then that feeds into a pipeline of predeterministic code. So it's kind of like AI aspects to a pipeline, but I still don't know if the whole thing is an agent.
I don't know if it matters. It's like you're saving a huge amount of time, effort, money. You know, it's like a workflow that's agent enabled. Who cares, right? Whether it's actually an agent
Exactly.
or not. But I agree, like having MCPs, unlocks a lot, but you end up kind of plugging it back into a deterministic, tree of events, which is like, well, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Now it's going to be pretty mind blowing if AGI turns out to be a super small model. It's just really good at tool calling. And then, we already have all these systems set up already. Just have the AI figure out what system it has to trigger.
Yeah, I think that's where we'll go. Because ultimately, you really need your AI to be on this. Um,
Mhm.
and we'll see, I'm kind of curious what Sam Altman and Johnny Ive are up to and like what form factor that thing's going to be and how that's going to work. Um, but it's clear we need to rethink, the human computer interaction model with AI now. So I'm excited to kind of see that, that play out. I've got a pair of Meta Ray-Bans, that they're sunglasses, so I use them when I go outside. But, I find I use some of those capabilities where I ask, Meta, like, what's that? But it's not very often. It's mostly just to take a couple pictures and then, send them to a friend.
In my previous experience, I worked with Open Interpreter, and we went through the O1 project, which was a little device that you could speak to, and then it would be connect to a server running a computer to do computer control. A little premature, didn't quite have the capabilities we were looking for, but it was a screenless interface that really excited me because I'm out and about, get an idea, you can just do a little voice note, or you can even say, don't forget to send this file to Ryan. So I do think we're going to be exploring a lot more different things away from the computer because when you're out and about, I would love it if AI helped us kind of get into nature more, but you could still be productive and functional. How do you see the open source ecosystem playing out? Do you think they're going to try to keep pace with the big labs? Do you think they'll be building more of the tooling supporting it, but still rely on these centralized models? How does the open source world factor into your future worldview?
Yeah, I think that Meta is gonna be the determining factor here, right? So it's clear that Meta and Zuckerberg are going to throw a huge amount of capital at Llama, right? And I think it's pretty clear Llama is going to continue to be, one of the soda models, right? And as an open weights model, that really unlocks a lot. So I think, Llama will be a big deal. I think, OpenAI's new, open weights model when it comes out, that's going to be fascinating. Um, but the way I see it playing out is people just don't use the open weight models as much if they don't have the intelligence. You're usually going to go to a model in the cloud because you need the intelligence, right? Or you've got a hyper specific use case on mobile that you're going to use an open weights model for. Great, but it's not for the intelligence, right? So I think those are the kind of the world we're in at. There's a really cool open source tool that Bob Duffy and team created at Intel called AI Playground. And it's, literally the tool is open source and it uses open weights models to create a ton of imagery and videos. And so I could see people saying, I just don't want to pay $20 a month, for OpenAI to make my images or my videos. I'm going to use, an open weights model locally. But I just feel like that's kind of the tinkerer, group of people, which has got to be small. I think most people are going to essentially pay for a Netflix account for AI, right? Like I'm just going to pay $20 a month and get all the AI I need. And it's going to end up using, proprietary model in the cloud. That's super smart. So that's the way I see it shaking out. I would like open weight models to really matter here. And I think they could, but day to day, the truth is I use Sonnet 4 because it's super smart and I need it to be super smart. So now fast forward 12 months. I mean, it's probably going to be that, a small, open weights model is very intelligent and very good. And I'll end up relying on it because it's on my phone. So Let's hedge our bets and see.
Yeah, exactly. Keep pushing forward. I feel like the orchestration layer is one that we really have to solve because as soon as we can get hot swappable adapters or even just models hosted in a rapidly accessible way, if it can be properly routed to the right model, we have potential. But yeah, just scale alone is such a vast gap to overcome that I'm still rooting for open source, always team open source, but
Yeah.
long ways to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I want it to win. And, Hugging Face is doing a huge amount of great work, to really enable the open weights ecosystem. Um, and I think it will be a big player. And we see things like Mistral, really pushing the limits. And it's interesting that a lot of these are happening outside the States, right? So you have Mistral and Hugging Face, they're non-US companies. And obviously DeepSeek and everything going on over there. So we'll see how it plays out. It's gonna be exciting.
Yep. I'd love to pivot to talk a little bit about the one-person company.
Yes.
You're doing your own startup solo. More and more people are talking about the potential for a one-person unicorn. What are your general bits of advice for a tinkerer, maybe a product manager who wants to get in, they have an idea and they want to execute?
Yeah. So, I've started probably 5, 6 companies, 3 of them worked. Many did not. And I think this is all about finding a problem that you really care about, right? So if there's a company to be made, it's always going to be around a problem that you deeply care about that you think you can help solve. Um, and that's one of the key things is like people don't buy vitamins, they buy pain pills, right? So it's always going to be about solving a problem versus, making people's lives better. So that's a lesson I learned. I had a couple startups where I was trying to do something that I thought would be, make people's lives better, but the truth is people just want their pain solved. Um, and you can't make these ideas happen. They usually will appear, right? So the current startup I'm working on, I didn't have the right idea for a while, and then bam, it hit me. And I'm working very hard on that. So I think that's kind of thing one. Find the thing that you think you deeply care about, because there's no reality where you're gonna build something and then 6 months later it's gonna make you a lot of money. Um, Startup is just pure grind, right? And it's likely it'll be a year to 3 years before you really figure out product market fit and you actually make enough money to quit your job. And it's just a slow grindy process, but if it's the right idea, then it probably will work after a while. So that's all like basic entrepreneur stuff, like whether you're talking about 1-person company or 1,000-person company. I think if we focus on the 1-person startup, what you need to do is be extremely curious, and be willing to move forward no matter how much you don't think you know. So for example, like, the current startup I'm building is a Delaware C Corp. I use Stripe to incorporate it. That's fine. That's, you click a couple buttons and you have a Delaware C Corp. But all of a sudden I had to register for some annual tax. And I got a letter in the mail and I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know what this is or how this works. I mean, I used to have a COO that would do all this stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, I can just talk to AI about this, right? So I did that, right? And, half an hour later, I had filed, the form and paid this small little fee and moved on my way, right? So I think there's just a lot of little things like that if you're willing to do them and let AI help you do them, it really unlocks that 1-person, advantage. And on top of that, it's interesting. I've always been a solo founder, like supported by my wife. I haven't really had co-founders, and I've always liked that. I've liked the control. I've liked the clarity. And I've liked being able to move fast. And I think now with AI, you really can. And I think a lot of folks are realizing maybe the whole co-founder thing was, a pre-AI idea. It's just less important now. because like, why give up 50% of the equity in the company if you don't have to, you know? So couple thoughts.
Yeah, love it. Pulling back to the find a problem you're passionate about. A lot of listeners of this show into the AI tooling space. During your development workflow, what problems do you think still exist? Not necessarily on the model level, but on the application layer for AI tools that people might want to start working towards.
Gosh, so I would look at very specific vertical use cases, right? So the startup I'm launching is around a very specific vertical problem in Connecticut, where I live, right? It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it absolutely can be transformed, through AI. So I think people should start looking for these. Like, what are these gnarly, messy, vertical specific problems that people have? And how can you relaunch a new user interface, a new user experience, and then layer AI on top of that to solve that problem? I just think there's a million businesses that could be launched in this sort of genre. And, these businesses can make $1 million a year easy, right? So you look at, gosh, well, if as a solo founder, you could be generating $1 million in revenue a year, that's a big deal, right? Yes, it doesn't need to be 10 or 100, like all the VC, backed firms, companies talk about, but $1 million a year business for a solo founder was absolutely a life-changing thing. So there's a lot of opportunity. I would encourage people just to ignore all the VC talk and all the, people saying they're making 50,000 in MRR every month on X. Just ignore all that and find a problem that you care about that you think is unique and not a lot of people are paying attention to. And I, think you can do well.
Perfect. Last question for me. For those people who have the itch, not quite ready to leave their job, but they want to spend a bit of time kind of adjusting, adapting, preparing for taking the dive into entrepreneurship, what do you think they should focus on in terms of skills, mindset? How can you take a regular employee and then work towards becoming a stronger entrepreneur in this day and age?
I mean, I would say literally go to cursor.com and download it, number one. Number two, open up the agent panel and talk to it. So I think we're in this magic world now where you have this hyper intelligent, being that will literally do what you ask. So I think just start going in there and it's like getting your reps in, right, at the gym, right? Just go in, right? If you can go in and start moving your body, the first time you go into the gym, doesn't matter what you do. Like the fact that you went there matters, and then even the second time, it doesn't really matter. Like even the seventh time, it doesn't really matter. Like you're just getting your reps in, right? And then try to build something really, really simple, right? And again, you don't even have to know what the tech is. Like if you're not actually a developer, it doesn't matter, right? And if you want to go a level up and make this even easier, you can use Replit or Lovable or Bolt, like all these tools that literally build the app and the infrastructure for you. So there's just so many options. So I would say go to the gym, and the gym is Cursor or Lovable or Bolt or Replit, and see what happens. Go on X and follow some people that talk about this stuff and try to meet up with some of them if you can. And if you can't, join some online meetups. And the world is your oyster right now. And this probably won't last forever. Like I think we're in kind of a 5 to 10 year window where a huge amount of value is going to be created. And a lot of the value is going to be transferred from existing enterprise juggernauts to more smaller vertical specific startups. And the time is now. So just start.
Ryan, this was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience and your insight. Before we let you go, is there anything you'd like the audience to know?
Just come on over to ryancarson.com or x.com/Ryan Carson, or linkedin.com/in/Ryan Carson. Say hi. I talk about this stuff all day, every day, probably too much. So come on over, say hi. Tell me what you're thinking about, what you're building, how you need help, and it'd be fun to chat.
Awesome. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot.